What's good, y'all? Hope y'all doing well. Hope y'all are feeling blessed. We are back with another YouTube video. Today's video is going to be a little bit more in depth on training session flow. So I've already gone through a warm-up before and giving you ideas on how to maybe implement that. I've also already gone into how you can start training for twice a week and even 3 times a week. I want to go through the session flow from warm-up basically to the end of the workout. This is to give you guys ideas, but also there's going to be takeaways that you can start to implement this tomorrow or even next week. So just so you guys see the concept and see it all in totality. The volume is going to be subjective to you and how you can recover. It could be on the low end of just 1 set to some even being 4 or 5 or 6 sets. But for the most part, the demographic is going to be relative to people that are trying to get in and out the gym. This is not a 2-hour powerlifting kind of style of training or programming, but you're going to get the gist. We're going to start with the warm up. Let's get right to it. All right, y'all. So we right into the warm up. Remember, key reminders for this are going to be increasing your core temperature, getting your heart rate up, getting your body, your muscles, your nervous system primed for the session. So I typically will start with the things that personally just feel nice and good, make me feel fluid and just limber. I'll start with a kind of calmer, slower pace. You're seeing just a couple reps of some of the movements that I enjoy to incorporate for myself and for clientele, but it's basically going to be from head to toe. It doesn't always have to be specific to this in regards to mobility deficits or working and things of that nature, but I like to kind of implement this in the session because sometimes people don't love to get it during the middle of the session or towards the end of it when they're tired. But as far as getting that core temperature up or getting the heart rate up, it can be something as simple as utilizing a bike, utilizing an elliptical, treadmill, whatever the case is. It could be as short as 5 minutes to 10 or 15 minutes. But after around that point, you're ready to hit the ground running. So we're going through just about everything. We're incorporating different planes of motion. A majority of it will start on the ground as far as like close chained exercises. And then we start to progress in speed, as you see here with those A skips, and finishing out the warm-up with some pogo jumps. Now we are going to go into our first main lift, which is going to be Zercher squats. Whatever sort of lower body movement that's going to mimic the thing that you probably just finished with in your warm-up is going to be conducive and makes the most sense. So if I just did something for lower body, which was a pogo jump, it could be a max height jump, it could be a box jump, whatever suits you or is working for you in your program, that would be the thing that you would finish with because it's quick contractions, getting your body primed, you're recruiting a lot of muscles, and it's getting you fired up for a heavy lift like this. So you just saw the first set. For this, I did 3 sets. I didn't get to record the actual first set, but this was my top set. It was around 255. Was going for about 3 sets of 5 reps. As far as the range of motion, I was going right above parallel or slightly right at parallel just because that's what was conducive for me in recovering properly. So I'll typically go right into an upper body movement. For this, it was Pendlay rows. It's just something that I love and prefer. I feel a really good contraction with them and I like to load them pretty heavy. This was the first set of 155 pounds who were going for 2 to 3 sets for 6 to 8 reps. This is set number 2. We built up to 185. I always am making sensible jumps. It's rare that I'm going to be making, a 100-pound jump from set to set. I like to just already get myself around like a 60-70% range of like whatever target rep max that is, like 3 or 5 reps. And I'll probably start somewhere around there for the first set and then just build incrementally from set to set. This was the top set of 205. It was pretty challenging. I definitely used wrist wraps to help for my grip because I knew it was going to start to fatigue. For this last set, we only got to 6, but still pushing myself. You can see the exertion on those last few reps. Now we are working through hamstring curl sliders. As you can tell from the flow, we went from lower body push or squat to an upper body pull, now to a lower body posterior based movement. For this, we went 3 sets of around 6 to 8 reps as well. Pretty challenging, got to keep the hips up pretty high. Now we are into my favorite exercise, and there is the ultimate sarcasm on that. I can't stand this movement, to be honest, but I know it's a weakness that I need to work on. A lagging body part as far as strength and size is shoulders for me, so taking out the leg drive on this alternating Z press is just so much fun. I swear it's torture. I really want to take it out the program, but I'm like, stop being a pansy and just do it. So I've been keeping it for at least like about 6 weeks. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit longer. I don't feel like I'm necessarily plateauing with it. It's one of those things where I at least increase in the reps just about each week that I do them. But it's one of those things, it's almost like a Copenhagen plank. Like, it never gets easier. And you just look up and you're like, man, like, I want this to feel lighter, you know? So I definitely am going to have to go back to the drawing board as far as finding innovative and creative ways to get more work in. How I treat them, just because they're pretty challenging. Sometimes I'll do the traditional just linear progressions where I'll go up from like 6 reps to 8 reps to 10 reps. Sometimes I'll literally just do density sets and I'll put on a timer and do as many quality reps as I can at that weight. Now, from here, we are into the accessory work. Different attire because I didn't record that day these movements, but this is basically what I do right after that press. I finish out with some of those kind of just pump-based movements, if you will. That press is more on the accessory lifts to the main lifts, but that pump finisher stuff could be anything from the smaller muscle groups like calves, forearms, biceps, triceps, and core. So finished out a set of those overhead tricep extensions, and then another favorite for pump and stretch is single arm preacher bicep curls. Moving still moderate weight, still trying to attack it with intent, even though it's towards the latter half of the session, maybe the last 10 to 15 minutes. I don't want to just drop off in intensity completely. Of course, it's not going to be as intense because it's not recruiting the same amount of muscle groups and fibers that it was for the bigger lifts that I had. But definitely still focusing and trying to really maximize it. You can see I'm starting to get towards the tail end of the sets. Or the tail end of the reps for each of these sets, and you can see me really trying to push through and get some quality reps and good range of motion in there. But that's typically how I'm going to finish out the session. After the preacher curl, you're going to see me go into a core-based movement. I'll either do 1 or 2 of those as well. And towards the end, the reps will go higher as well. You notice for the tricep extension, I did about 12 reps. For this, I'm doing 10 to 12 reps. I'll give myself like a range to try to hit. Volume from like a sets perspective is normally like 2 to 3, sometimes 4 if I really feel like I can recover from it. And arms, like I feel like I can go for days. So here we have a decline crunch. Added the med ball for a little bit of resistance for a progression, and also just working a little bit of coordination to keep, my calves basically in contact with the ball and my hamstrings. There's only 6 reps shown just because my camera cut out, but I definitely went for 10 to 15 reps. I think on this set I got about 12, but that'll typically be the flow. All right, that's really about it. I'll typically stick to this kind of flow and this block of movement. That's just one day out of 3, but I'll stick to this kind of flow at a minimum of 4 weeks because I gotta at least see it, come to fruition, see the progressions within that. 4 is definitely on the low end. For myself personally, I stick to majority of these for anywhere from like 6 to 8 weeks. And if I'm really just flowing, I like it. If it's my schedule, I'm recovering from it fine, and I'm still seeing progress, I'll run this for 12 weeks. I've even run some for as long as 16 weeks. So you definitely want to be able to track it for long enough to see where you're going with it. Obviously, if you get to like 1 or 2 weeks and you don't have access to that equipment because it's always being used, or you like the way it looks on paper, but your recovery sucks. Like if you work like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you do this workout on Monday and you're just doing too much volume, or maybe it's just ranges of motion that you normally don't tap into and it's making you super sore and it's resulting in tougher sessions on Wednesday, and you feel like you need like 96 hours to recover, then that may be, something you may need to take heed to and kind of divert from that original plan. But more times than not, you don't really need to mix up the pot too much. You just need to stick to the play, try to make incremental changes or growth per week, per session, and that's really as simple as that. The spectrum as far as like the reps can be wide. Working in strength, working in hypertrophy, working with power, working with muscular endurance. It could be anywhere from the low end of 3 reps to some of the sets being up to like 20 to 30 reps. So you can kind of play around with that. I just look at it from a flow of, like I mentioned previously, going from highest demand or most intensity to lesser intensity and a bit higher reps. So it could be something where you're going from the lower reps of the session when you're at that main strength lift, anywhere from the like 3 to 6 to 8 range. And then as you get progressively throughout the workout, that's when you start getting into like that 5 to 8, then like that 8 to 10, and potentially some of the sessions could be the 10 to 30. So that's kind of the flow and how I look at it. Other things that I didn't mention, but if you have the time, I definitely employ that you find a way to cool down in some capacity. Because yes, it may not be high intensity, but it still is an intense session or a day going through that amount of strength and that amount of work and recruiting the muscle that you are. So I'll try to implement as often as I can some sort of deep breathing to kind of bring my heart rate down, especially if you have a wearable or even just checking your pulse. You can kind of track and see like, okay, it's elevated. So it's nice to kind of give yourself that 5 minutes of like some intentional deep breaths. And I'm thinking more nasal breathing, more through my diaphragm, just bringing my heart rate down to kind of cool down, because when you're going throughout your day and you have that much of an elevated heart rate and it's lasting you for hours on end, that's still keeping your cortisol levels high. Not all cortisol is bad, but keeping those levels high and kind of delaying that recovery process when you can kind of help it just within as short as 5 to 10 minutes of some deep breaths. And it could be something as subtle as that. It could even be just a brisk walk on the treadmill, Stairmaster, whatever the case is, something that's just not too taxing on the body. That's simple as it can get, straightforward as it can get as far as the flow. We'll definitely get more in depth with each video, each concept. Leave comments, let me know what you guys want to see next. I appreciate y'all for sticking around, watching all the way through. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'm gonna catch y'all next time. Peace.